generation spent a lot of effort raising memorials to those of their comrades who had not come safe home. Whereas my generation, who owed their lives to those who had got through the war, had no tribute to what they'd been through. When I'd been to the National Arboretum in Washington and Arlington Cemetery on the same day, and then woke up in the night, thought you could put those two things together. And that's how the idea of a memorial arboretum came about. On the flight back from that particular trip, there was an old copy of the Daily Telegraph in the cabin, which broadcast the story of the going to be creating a national forest. And I thought, what a national forest needs will be my National Arboretum. And they were very good, because I went up there, said I had no money, no land, and no experience, and how about it? And they were very positive, as was the lottery, who were quite prepared to have somebody with an idea which they liked, and then offered to match 50-50 funding. And the land was given to us on a peppercorn rent of £1 a year. So whenever I went up, I made sure I had £1 in my pocket in case. The land we looked for was right in the centre of the country, near Lichfield, and was an ex-gravel pit being worked by Redland Aggregate, who were again very kind and happy to donate the land to us because they liked the project and the restoration that would be involved. The first thing we had to do was actually source trees and how to pay for trees. And again, there was a grant available from the National Forest to plant trees. So we designed the site, planted it to the distance apart that was required by the National Forest. We could thin out the trees afterwards. And then we got volunteers. And the volunteers worked incredibly hard. The land was dreadful because it was all reclaimed land. We said at one stage, when somebody discovers a worm, we'll have the afternoon off. Well, for a year and a half, nobody had an afternoon off. So we were lucky. Our first week, we had 3 visitors, I think. Every time a visitor appeared, somebody would rush in to say, we've got a visitor. Now, I think there were 350,000. So it's made a lot of progress. When I look at it now, I look how much it's improved since I left. It's gone from strength to strength after I departed. And one of the great things about the whole site is the ethos of looking after the visitor, making a fuss of the visitor, making sure they feel this is their site, and being so welcoming. People do like to come again. And that was established by the volunteers themselves, really, right from the start. When we started, the millennium was coming up, the Cold War was finishing, the world was going to be at peace from the millennium onwards, and we've ended up fighting just as many wars and just as many people. But in a sad way, it still gives a purpose to the project, that people are remembered from Iraq or Afghanistan, Bosnia, and have an equal right, whereas the war memorials themselves in this country sort of drew a line after 1945, but this continues. I think in the future, the trees themselves will create a wonderful parkland for people to want to visit anyway, and then while they're there, look and reflect back on the history of the country, the things we got right, the things we got wrong, the people we lost, and the people that are being memorialized there. There are other memorials that aren't necessarily involved with warfare that will be there. For example, a woodland to remember all the victims of COVID-19. It would be an appropriate site because it's in the center of the country and easily accessible, and you can wander around without being disturbed by traffic or crowds who are there for different reasons whatsoever. It is a place of tranquility and a place one can wander around with one's own thoughts. You've only got to listen to people talking after they've been round and saying they've got to come again and see more of it. Yes, we were very lucky that it worked. I had no idea what I was doing when I was started, and somebody looked down from above and said, "Don't worry, son, it'll work out." And it seems to have done so.